Hey babes, my name's Hannah.
And my name's Chasity.
Welcome back to Bookish Babes. Today we're going to be giving you guys our May reading wrap up. And I read 3 and she read 9. So she's going to start and end.
The very first one I read, I actually had I did have a killer reading month.
You did?
Not, I mean, amount, yes, but also the books were very good as well. The first one I read was Homefront by Kristen Hanna. This one I gave 3 stars.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few reasons that I gave it 3 stars. I always like her writing. Like I am
Great writing style.
Yeah, I'm very much a fan of her writing style.
Mm-hmm.
I love that she chooses some more difficult topics. This one was about a pilot in the Army,
Mm-hmm.
a female pilot in the Army.
Mm.
She was part of the National Guard, and I think for most of her career, her family really, she had 2 kids, she had a husband and everything. And for most of her career, I really don't think they really understood what she did. Because she was like an orphan. She didn't have a whole lot of family until she created her own family.
Mm-hmm.
And then, gosh, just like when she was called back to duty, it was just like this big slap in the face to them to really understand that their mom was going to war.
Yeah.
And then she comes back and it was such a read to where I was constantly up and down. Mm-hmm. Because the husband was a full-time dad after she left. Mm-hmm. And he was not used to any kind of fatherly duties. This was literally
just an adjustment for everybody, yeah.
Yeah, coming from the office to being put in the kitchen and literally having no idea how your wife does anything at home.
Yeah.
And he was very resentful. And then she gets injured.
Oh, so then he's got to take care of the kids and her.
Uh-huh. But he kind of feels more like an asshole afterwards, because holy shit, mm-hmm. my wife's at war, kind of thing. So I really liked understanding that. Also, I totally forgot. He said he wanted a divorce before she went off.
And then she gets injured and
yeah.
he's like, shit.
Yeah.
Dang. Well.
Yeah. So I had some mixed feelings about the husband throughout this book.
Mm-hmm. I never enjoy men the way that I think I'm intended to in books or in life. Yeah.
That's the thing right there.
Yeah.
However, the reason actually that this book got the 3 stars for me probably has a lot to do with the narration, to be honest, because the daughters, Betsy and Lulu, drove me crazy. Okay,
their names are gross.
Okay.
No offense.
No offense.
If you have those names, but.
Well, let's see. 12-year-old, yeah, 12, and I think Lulu was 4. I thought Betsy was probably the least mature 12-year-old I've ever read. Hmm. Now 12 is not a very mature age, but
I mean that's almost a teenager. Yeah.
Yes, and I kind of just thought some parts were just not believable to me. Mm-hmm. Now everybody's different, and there definitely are some 12-year-olds that I'm sure do behave that way, but it still got under my skin. Yeah. And the narration of just hearing their voices, and I was just like, oh god.
You dreaded scenes with them in it.
Yeah. So that's probably why I got 3 stars from me. Maybe if I didn't hear the annoying voices and just how... Yeah, I think what it was is because she was basically, she was an army brat. Mm-hmm. And she had so much...
And she was an actual brat too, apparently.
Well, no, she was so strong and she had everything so organized and, but then she let so much shit slide by with her little brat of a kid. I didn't get it.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the kid that was an army brat. Okay.
No, it was just what? Mm-hmm. How do you have that much? I don't know. It wasn't copacetic for me. I was just like, I don't get this. But on to my next one. The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I believe this is her first book. I actually haven't looked into that, so don't fact check me. But I think this is her first one. 5 stars for this one. This was about, this had a multiple timeline, so it's like, a woman goes on an anniversary trip by herself because she just found out her husband was cheating on her. So she takes an anniversary trip that she planned to London by herself, which I loved. Do you? And then she like ends up doing like some stuff that she never thought she would end up doing. It's not like happy-go-lucky stuff. It's like finding artifacts and shit. And she kind of gets back to her roots because she studied like history in college, and she actually like
That's so cool.
left college because
To get
like,
married?
Yeah, to work on her husband's family's farm. Like, fuck that. I hate men. But anyways, so
I'll drink to that. No, just
she
kidding.
finds these little vials, and she like takes them to the museum and like tries to find these, like tracks down this stuff, and then it goes back in the day, and they like it goes back to this story of this lost apothecary, and then you kind of follow somebody who had an apothecary. It was healing and everything, but in the back she would help some women out who were maybe being abused or
wow.
yeah.
That's so cool. I've heard of that, and I didn't want to read it, but I now kind of do.
I have it. You can borrow it.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely give it a 5 star.
Yeah.
It was definitely a wonderful touch of like mystery, like some murders, some magic,
I love books
some
that
history.
bounce back and forth between present day and history. Or even if they don't bounce, if you get like both storylines.
Yes,
I love that.
I did love that.
Yeah.
And it's definitely like I love when it was very female driven.
Wow.
That was just like, it's what I needed at the time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So the first book that I read is kind of new for me. I don't read a ton of nonfiction. I actually read 2 nonfiction this month. Yeah, 2 out of my 3 were nonfiction. I don't typically read that. But the first one that I read was Fiber Fueled. It's by a GI doctor. His first name is Will. I can't pronounce his last name. But I have like some health issues and some issues with my like stomach and digestive system, and so this is one that's been heavily recommended to me by like Instagram pages that I follow where people have the same issues as me. And it kind of talks about the importance of different versions, I guess, of fiber for your like gut microbiome, and that your body needs all of the unique micro and macronutrients in each plant food that you're eating. And how if you're eating like the same fruits and vegetables, it's really not very helpful because your body gets used to that version of fiber and doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it was honestly like a really cool book. I didn't realize that the bacteria in your gut like fed off of the different foods that you ate so much. And ideally for a healthy gut, you have a wider range of gut bacteria, and so that's why it's important to eat like a wide range of, plant food. So I've definitely started adding, like incorporating. Now he's a vegan and he's all about like that vegan lifestyle. I am not, but I do still take a lot away from that book, where I've started to swap out some animal-based foods for more plant-based foods. Not completely, I don't think I'll ever be completely vegan, but like I said, I do still feel like I have a ton to take away from that book. So I would really recommend it. It was interesting. I think I gave it 4 stars. I didn't agree with everything, but let's be honest, I never agree with everything somebody says, so.
This is true. This is true. But I think maybe I'll check that one out as well.
I have it, you can borrow it.
You kind of just like blew my mind when you said some of that. I was like, wait a minute, that might track.
Favorite thing about it is that so like in the back half of the book there's like a meal plan you can follow. I have no desire to follow that. But his research is backed up. Like everything he states is backed up by a lot of reputable research, and I think that that's something that a lot of like diet books are lacking, is it's like, you know, this is going to cleanse your body, but where's your research? You know, he has
a lot of them
research.
don't have it. That's
He
the problem.
does.
Yeah.
And so that's why I believe a lot of this stuff, because you can go on his website, and he even says in the beginning of the book, like, you can go on whatever website it is and you can check my sources. Like, please check my sources. It's all like reputable research. It's really interesting. And he published it because, like I said, he's a GI doctor and he just wants his patients to feel better. And he said this is the way to feel better. And I 100% believe it. Well, I shouldn't say 100% believe it, because I'm not all about like that vegan life. But I'm also somebody who's not vegan who believes that a vegan diet is the healthiest 100%. It's just not something I could sustain right now. But there are aspects of it that I could
sustain.
Yeah.
I don't have
one day I think I really could. I just feel like, I don't know, maybe I should get off my soapbox, but I feel like identifying fully as a vegan really hinders you from trying food. Like when you travel, that might be the only chance you ever get to try that food. And if you're like, no, I can't eat that, I'm vegan, like, life is too fucking short for that. But I really feel like I one day in the near future will make everything that I eat on a daily basis plant-based. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Once I can sustain it, it's just not where I'm at right now. But great book, nonetheless.
Great book. So the next one that I read was Keep Quiet by Lisa Scottolini. I definitely gave this one 5 stars. So this book was about, I think I started to tell you about this one. It was about, so a guy like loses his job and starts his own business. His wife is a judge, a very successful judge, and they have like a teenage son who's like a good kid. He's a basketball star, I think, on the team or whatever. Is he basketball?
Some sort of sports team.
Yeah, he's obviously, I care so much about sports.
Right.
And the dad is struggling to kind of connect with the son. He's definitely connects more with the mom. And now that he's kind of owning his own business, he has a little bit more time at home. So his wife suggests that he goes and picks up the kid from the movies. He's like hanging out with his friends or whatever, so he does. And the kid just got his license, or his permit. His permit. And he tries to talk his dad into letting him drive the new car. And he does, but it's like past 11, which he can't drive on the weekends after dark. 11 with the permit. And everything's going great. They're bonding. They're talking about something, like they're really getting along. And they come around this corner, and he hits somebody.
Oh dang.
Yeah. So he hits somebody. And then it's like split decision here.
He switches places with him.
Well, he goes to switch places with him. He goes to call the cops, and all this stuff happens. It's like all these different things he's going through. Like, I was driving, I'm gonna call the police, it was an accident, type of thing, blah, blah, blah. And then the kid's like, what do I do with this? And then pulls out like a bag of weed. And the dad like, okay. We're not gonna do any of that. So they leave. And then the book just spirals after that.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So they drive away or they leave the truck? Okay.
They drive away.
Wow. And the mom's a judge?
And the mom is a judge.
Wild.
It was really wild. It was really, really wild, because then it just gets like worse and worse.
Yeah, because once you start that lie, you have to maintain that lie, and a lot of times you have to do crazy shit in order to maintain that lie.
And then somebody randomly shows up at his office and is like, hey, yeah,
I know what happened.
I know what happened, and I want this deposited in this account at this day. And oh yeah, it goes way, oh man.
What the fuck? Is it like a thriller?
Yeah, it
okay.
like it goes where you just like don't even expect it.
Yeah.
When I started that book, I thought it was gonna have a completely different ending from what it did.
Dang.
like a completely different
I love
thing.
books like that though.
Oh, for sure. For sure. The next one was kind of the same surprise, but it was like a totally different. The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. I'm not sure exactly how to say that, but this was about two scientists, a husband and wife, and the wife created this amazing experiment, pretty much this cloning experiment.
Oh, I've heard about this one. Yeah.
I think I was telling you about this.
Probably.
One blew my mind. And the husband pretty much stole her cloning experiment and cloned himself one of her.
He's like, I'll take two.
So she doesn't know about it for a while.
Shit.
He has a whole nother house where he keeps his second wife.
Was it a clone of her?
It's a clone of her. It's
crazy.
It's her clone that he just like put up in an apartment. Yeah, it was real crazy. Real crazy.
I'm gonna add that to my Goodreads real quick.
And then, I can't even. I don't even want to spoil it for you guys. Just please, I was left speechless.
Literally, as we speak, adding it to my Goodreads. Oh, it's already on my Goodreads.
Probably because I was bugging you.
Probably you're like, read this.
I was like, read it.
Yeah.
It was a ride.
Yeah.
I think it only took me like 2 days.
Wow. But once again, I love books like that. Yeah. So the second book that I read, do you ever read one and you're like, this is gonna, so every year we made, I think we've done it the 2 past years that we've been on YouTube, we've made our favorite books of the year.
Yeah.
I already know this one is gonna be on my favorite books of 2021. It was Know My Name by Chanel Miller.
Absolutely.
This is about, and I don't even know what to call her because she even mentions in the book, this is about the girl that Brock Turner raped. And I used to be one of those people who called her like Brock Turner's victim, but she says in the book, like, I'm not anything to him. Like, I'm not Brock Turner's anything. But just for reference, that you know who I'm talking about, it is the woman that Brock Turner raped. But she is so much more than that, and that's what this book showed me, is it's like, she has had, you know, just your very average upbringing. She comes from an Asian American family. Her mom's from China. She has a sister, and their parents are still married, and they live in the same house that she grew up in. And she goes to a party one night, and I know that like we've heard the story, but we don't know all of the story of what happened. It's like she literally went to a party with her sister and her friends. Like, she was already out of college. She was like, my sister's just home for the weekend, so I want to hang out with her. So she went to this party, and she wakes up the next day in the hospital having no idea what happened.
Yep.
And they're like doing this rape kit on her. They're swabbing her. They're taking pictures of her genitals. They're taking pictures of these bruises on her. And it's just, and nobody will tell her what happened. Eventually they tell her they suspect an assault happened, which once again doesn't give her very much information. She doesn't think anything really happened. She was told that like 2 bikers intervened. So she just thinks maybe she was groped. And then she found out, what I learned in the book is she found out what happened to her when the world found out what happened to her. Literally the news story was leaked, and that she was like, wait, that's me. Now they didn't put her name in, obviously. They called her Emily Doe. That's the whole, you know, point of the title of the book, Know My Name. The whole trial they called her Emily Doe, but
yes,
she knew that she was the one that was found by the dumpster by those bikers, and so she was like, wait, this is what happened to me. Nobody called her first. She had to call the detective. She had to track people down and ask if that was about her and what she was supposed to do. Basically, they were already
absolute and utter bullshit.
Horrible to find out something like that. Well, she was at work, like she was sitting at her desk, and the article popped up, and she read it, and that's how she found out. And she didn't remember any of it, and so then they were already going to press charges, obviously, like the DA, but now she had to decide whether she was going to press individual charges against him, and she obviously decided to. And just hearing how she was ripped apart in order to make him be innocent, when it was proven that he raped her.
Yeah,
and that's what she said in the book. She was like, they were asking her all these questions on trial, and she said her answer to all of those questions was, I did not consent to him touching me while I was unconscious.
End of story.
It should have been, there should have been nothing else that
Case
mattered.
closed.
What she was wearing should not have mattered.
Nope.
How much she drank should not have mattered.
Nope.
The fact that she was completely passed out because of the amount of alcohol that she
Doesn't
consumed
matter.
did not matter.
Obviously,
but it did in the
she's
court of law.
passed out.
Yeah.
She cannot consent.
But it was just, and it was beautifully written. I don't even want to say it was a beautiful book, because obviously it was about something really traumatic that happened to her. But twice while I was reading it, Googled like who co-wrote it with her, because I was like convinced somebody had to have co-wrote it with her because it was so well written, but she wrote it herself. It's long. I listened to an audiobook. I think it was like 14-15 hours in total. It's long, but it's very worth it. You learn a lot about her
book. Yeah.
and her childhood and the awesome boyfriend that she had at the time, and how like this literally uprooted her life when she decided that she was going to press charges. I mean, she eventually had to quit her job because she could not sustain that job with all of like the meetings with her lawyers and the trial dates, and she couldn't speak to her own sister during the trial because they were worried, you know, Brock's lawyers were worried that like they were going to conspire against him or something and create this story. And it was just crazy to learn about the legal process behind it.
Yeah.
And what was going through her head the whole time. That's all stuff that, so the camera cut us off. I don't know where we left off, but I was saying that my favorite part was of the book was that we got to learn who she was, you know, behind the case and separate from the case. And she's just like such a kind, interesting person.
She is. And I think that everyone really needs to read this book, not only just because they need to know the whole story, but like when you heard about the trial happening and you heard about all this, everything was just how this could ruin his life. And like everyone needs to hear the other side. Like this did ruin her life. Like she was a disaster.
I wouldn't
for the
say
longest
ruined.
time.
She's doing really great
No,
now.
she is now, but for
But
the
it
longest
completely
time,
uprooted her version
yeah,
of
absolutely.
normal. Yeah.
She was ruined for a long time. And there's a part of you that will never be the same because somebody just thought that.
And she there's a line that I love, and she said, you know, people were asking her like, why didn't you fight? Why didn't you say no? And she said like, why is the answer always an assumed yes? What do I have to say no in order for it to not happen? Like it should never be assumed that I want to have sex with you. Never. And it like literally boils my blood. I remember watching the case and reading about the case when it was happening and thinking, how the fuck did he only get sentenced to 6 months? Then he only served 3. And now it's like it came back with a vengeance. I like cannot fucking believe that man is walking on the streets right now, and this only happened a few years ago.
I can't believe that he's still walking on the streets.
Yeah.
Like how has
somebody not fucking taken him
just
out?
taken him out.
And to hear how she had to sit in a court full of people and be like read all this shit about her genitals and about what she was wearing and about her personal life and how she, you know, had random hookups before, and so she must be promiscuous, and that's why this happened.
Give me a fucking break.
I was just like, I remember sometimes I had to pause. I listened to an audiobook, which by the way, she narrates the audiobook,
which is fantastic.
It was great. I 100% recommend listening to an audiobook if you can. I had to pause it and collect myself. Yeah, because it was very, very, very difficult to read, but I think, like she said, everybody needs to read it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was enraged. Yeah. I was gutted.
Yeah.
I felt also empowered at some points. I'm like, yes.
She came out of all of that better than she was before, and better than Brock will ever be, and can ever be, even if he had never done that. And so I think that's the most important part, is like...
He's a shit person.
Yeah. 100%.
He was a shit person before then.
And I do take some solace in knowing that he will never be able to live a normal life.
No.
Because his name is I mean, everybody knows the name Brock Turner.
Yep.
So.
And that he's a shit person. And you can't escape that.
Right. Oh, anyway. Yeah, we need to move on before I get too deep into it.
So now, after we meditate for a few moments, move along to probably my favorite read of the month, which was Mother May I by Jocelyn Jackson. Okay, I can say that. Really,
you can. You are allowed. Yeah,
I am. This is definitely a 5-star read, considering it was my favorite of the month. This was a psychological thriller.
Love that.
Holy shit. Just holy shit. This one had me immediately, kept me on the edge of my seat, and I just, oh my god, you have to read this one.
Okay.
Okay?
What's one this one?
Have to read this
Mother
one.
May I?
Mother May I.
Adding this to my Goodreads also.
So, this one is officially my staff pick at work right now.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with, I think
This is already on my TBR also.
That's because usually
I have 800 books on my TBR.
Well,
okay,
and when there's a book that I really am into, I'm
when
like,
I see
hey.
it on her Goodreads, I add it to mine.
Mm-hmm. So this one is very much like she wakes up from like a bad dream and she swears she's seen a witch in the window. And she
Oh, you
tells
did
her
tell me about
husband-
this one.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
And then the kid gets kidnapped. And I swear to God that just, again, this is one that I read a lot of psychological thrillers. You guys know this.
And so I feel like I am the same way, and I feel like I get burnt out on them because it gets easy for me to guess the ending because I've read so many.
Exactly. And this one was not like that. And I felt like, and I think I was telling Jess this, and she agreed with me because she finished this one too, is that this was like one big Law and Order episode that just kept getting twistier.
Yeah.
And I fucking loved it. I loved it. Just,
That's awesome.
I don't want to give you too many spoilers. On these, I always feel bad about like giving away too much because
I feel like psychological thrillers you need to go into blind.
yeah. And if I talk too much about these, then you're really gonna get angry at me.
Oh, this next one she's talking about is one that is going to be on my read list for next month because I'm definitely reading it.
So there's been a huge hype about it
Yes.
recently, and there was a huge hype before. Anyways, like this has been a known good book.
If you've watched a single book talk video,
You've heard about
yes.
The Song of Achilles from Madeline Miller.
Tell me what you.
I gave it 4 stars.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the thing. Okay. She did a beautiful job of writing this story. Beautiful retelling. I loved her style of writing. I'm excited to read her other one.
I'm just looking at, sorry, your next one.
My next one?
Yeah.
So the thing is like, I'm really picky about my retellings. However, I was really impressed with this one. I really did like it. I think, however, that a lot of the hype right now
Ruined it for you, maybe?
ruined it for me
Yeah.
a little bit. I was expecting something that maybe just wasn't there.
I get it. I'm like a little bit of a hipster
like-
with books sometimes, where I don't like.
I also
something that
feel
everybody
like,
likes.
here's the thing is like, I've been into Greek mythology since I was like 9. And I've read everything I can get my hands on. Like every kind of retelling, every kind of book, like, so I kind of feel like maybe a lot of people who are really impressed by this one and like really like praising it, this is like maybe only their first dive into it, or maybe like they're still in the beginning phases of it, to where like I don't feel like I necessarily like discovered anything new.
Okay, that's
It
fair.
was just like a new retelling, like a beautiful retelling, but
Mhm.
not necessarily anything new for me,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. But it was done very well, and I think she has
Yeah.
a beautiful writing style, and there was nothing wrong with it. I didn't feel like it was a disservice or anything. It just wasn't, it didn't blow my mind. Like
you
I was
knew
kind of
the story,
expecting,
you
yeah,
knew how
I
it
knew
was
how it was
gonna
going to
end,
end. I knew pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I did like that it was told from Patroclus's point of view. That like kind of changed it a little bit for me. So that was a little bit different. But that's about it.
Okay, that's fair. The last book that I read was actually a reread, sort of. So I read The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. And when I say a reread, I mean that I have technically read it before. If you're not familiar with it, it is like years in the future from The Handmaid's Tale, and it's from the point of view of Hannah, June's first daughter, Nicole, June's second daughter, and Aunt Lydia. And I skipped past, when I first started, I skipped past all of the parts that Aunt Lydia was narrating because I can't fucking stand her and I didn't want to read anything she had to say. And so I went back and I read it, and I read the whole thing instead of just skipping past her parts. And I'm glad that I did, even though I still can't stand her. I just don't like that a book humanized her. I think that's what she tried to do. I think she tried to humanize her, and I don't think she deserves to be humanized, but that's besides the point.
Like, no.
The only reason I reread it is because I'm obviously watching this season of The Handmaid's Tale, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but there's a lot that happened that already makes the Testaments kind of unable to be the route the show goes into, if that makes sense. Because I was always wondering if they were going to take the show the same route as the Testaments went, and like if it was going to
always
end
the
like
question,
that. Right?
Yeah.
But a lot happened this season that made that impossible. So I reread it to kind of see what could still happen and what they could still draw from, which honestly really isn't a whole lot. But I'm glad that I reread it and I read those parts from Aunt Lydia, because you got to see more from the inside, the fall of Gilead, and what that meant for aunts and for people on the inside of, like, you know, Gilead, like she was, and not the people who were like in service, like handmaids and Marthas and everything. And so it was interesting. I know people have mixed feelings about the Testaments. I also have mixed feelings about the Testament. I don't know that I don't even know what to rate it. I can't tell if it's a good book because it's a good book, or if it's a good book because I know the storyline and I needed that closure from it. But either way, I'm glad that I reread it, because I know now that nothing was spoiled for me, because it kind of can't really go that way anymore. Just based off of what, really only there's one character in the Testaments that whose like future is kind of still up in the air in both of them. So, and I'll leave it at that, because I don't want to spoil anything from this season if you haven't watched it. But
the next one that I read,
little throwback to last month. Was it last month or the month before? I don't know. I read it, raved about it, told her she had to read it.
Darling Rose Gold. Oh boy. By Stephanie, how do you say her last name? Warble?
Roble? I don't know.
Whatever. 5 stars. Holy shit, what did I just read? Okay, so this has to be probably one of the most twisty fucking dark fucking books that I've read as of late, because I don't know who is more fucking twisted. I went into this book with questions, but I left with even more questions. Okay? I don't know who's the real villain here. I think they're both fucking
That's
twisted.
what I like about they're both kind of villains.
They're both fucking villains. But I
know which one I side more, obviously. Because at the end of the book, I was like, as she should. As she should.
I think, see, I do get that, but I'm also like, you're fucking fucked up too, though.
It's like funny when you were telling me, when you were comparing her to like Gypsy Rose.
Yeah.
I was like, she is what Gypsy Rose should have been. She took the revenge that Gypsy Rose should have.
She should have.
Yeah.
This is also, yeah, if you're familiar with the Gypsy Rose
Blanchard
case, it's very similar.
I'm not super familiar with the case, but even I saw the similarities just based off of what I knew.
A whole lot of similarities between this book and that case. Not saying like there's no.
It does not end the same way at all.
End the same way at all.
It's just very clearly same idea of like the mom that convinces her child in the world that she's sick and she's not. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's pretty much like after that they kind of just part ways.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of similarities, and I was just like listening to it, going, "What? Are you fucking serious?" And a lot of it, after a while, I'm like, okay, which one of them is more sick? Because it's like, wait a minute, is this bitch is this all in her head? Is she really convinced that she's innocent, that she's not making her kid sick?
And that's the best part about it, is that it switches back and forth between her point of view and her mother's point of view, which is the best thing that author could have done.
And they're both
because you don't know who the fuck is off their rocker.
That's the best.
Spoiler alert, they both are, but
there's no, what do they call it when like the narrative is, you can't trust the narrative.
No,
you can't. You cannot trust your narrator.
Because you read one chapter and you're like, oh my god, the mother was horrible. And then you read the next chapter and you're like, oh my god, wait, was she really sick?
Was she really sick?
Because the mom seems to be convinced that she was actually sick. And
was the kid faking it? Was the mom?
Right.
Is the mom really convinced that the kid? You're so confused the entire time. Yeah. I'm like, one of these is, I don't know what's happening, but it's not right.
It was just all.
It was such
until the
a
very
shit
end.
show.
It was a shit show, and then it was like, and then it left me. I was like, "That's it." I was like, none of this is answered?
Nothing was answered.
But it's kind
Nothing
of in the
was
best
answered.
way.
But it was so, like... There's some books that, like, literally leave me with so many unanswered things, and I'm so bothered by it. This was not one of them.
Yeah, no, it didn't bother me.
Like,
it needed to end like that.
I was like, okay, all right, that made sense. Okay. I mean, it didn't, but it did. Like, there was no end to this. There was never
the kind of story that can be wrapped up with a pretty little bow. Absolutely not. Because I mean, there was no real good answer for any of these questions. I mean, even if they had answered them, like it wouldn't have been settling. So.
No, this was the more realistic ending.
Yes, exactly. So good.
So crazy. A fun fact. You guys know we are huge Taryn Fisher fans, and recently they've been asking for a lot of recommendations from Taryn on like Tuesdays with Taryn and stuff, and both Darling Rose Gold and Mother May I have been highly recommended.
Yeah, so I saw Darling Rose Gold on her Instagram. She said it was like one of the most twisted, fucked up books she's ever read, and when she says that, I was like, oh, I gotta pick it up. So I like immediately ordered it off of Amazon, got it the next day, and read it the next day. And then told her, you have to read it. Yeah.
And then Mother May I was just recently another one that she was
that's why it was probably on my TBR.
And I was like, hello, I read that one. Because ahead of the game on this one.
Yeah.
I was so happy to see that. I was like, ha, I already read that. Next one I read was The Newcomer by Mary Kay Andrews. I gave this one 4 stars. So I picked this one up because obviously I had some heavy hitters this month, so I kind of wanted just like a beach read, like something chill. Of course, I pick up something that's like an easy, romancy beach read.
I always see her books and there's like
murder in it.
Oh, great.
There's fucking murder in it.
I always see her books and there's a beach on every cover. I swear to God. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
They're all like beach reads. Like all of them.
Anything can be a beach read if you read on the beach, first of all. But.
Okay, first of all, yes. Yeah. Second of all, yes. But I needed something lighter.
And this was not as light as you wanted it to be.
I mean, it's just like, no, it was. I mean, it was, and then I was just like, whatever. Obviously, this is a Chasity book because there's a fucking murder in it. Of course, that's the one I picked up. No, but it was really good. It was good. I liked the characters. They were very relatable. I liked her style of writing. The reason it got 4 stars from me was because I think it was longer than it needed to be. It was a very long book.
It's a common occurrence, I feel like, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was longer than it needed to be. That's about it. Yeah. And then the very last one that I read in May was Stuff I've Been Feeling Lately by Alicia Cook. It is a poetry collection. The first half, and I always love hers because she does the really cool thing. I talked about one of her other ones on the channel. I can't remember the name of it. Sorry, I haven't texted back, something like that. And it's like, the covers look like cassette tapes.
Oh, nice.
And then inside there's track listings, so each one's like a track. And then at the bottom of the poem it says what she was listening to at the time. And then so half of the first half of the book is side A, and the other half is side B, and side B is blackout poems, so it's the same poems from side A, but they're blackout. So it's taking the same poem and like blacking out
some words,
and making it a new poem, and I think
really
it's so
cool.
fucking cool.
Yeah.
So I just love her stuff. I think she's just the best. I wish I could come up with ideas like that.
I'm not a poetry writer at all. I think I could maybe write a book if I actually put myself to it. I don't think I could ever write poetry. I don't also read a ton of poetry, so maybe that's why.
I wrote my first poem this year, and it's probably crap.
I'm just not, like, and I feel like that's why I don't read poetry also. My brain doesn't work like that. Poetry, even if it doesn't rhyme, it's very lyrical to me. And I struggle to read things like that. Even, like books, like novels that are written in certain prose, like I can't. I just don't, that's not my thing. But I do definitely see good poetry for, like, what it is, you know?
Yeah. I think I had, like, a thing... I had a much harder time reading poetry, like when I was in school, unlike college. Oh my God. Oh, like the old British, like British lit classes.
Oh,
oh
that's
my
It's
god.
like very dull poetry, yeah.
Oh god. That's so then I didn't read poetry for the longest time because I was like, thank god that's over.
Right. Is that what you associated it with?
Yeah, but now I'm like, now I can read poetry, but it definitely has to pique my interest, and like I have to be able to relate to it, I feel, because otherwise then I'm just going back to that same place where
it
I
makes
just
me
like
think of Tumblr. It makes me cringe to think about. Like it's gotta be, you know what I mean?
yeah. Alright guys, so that is everything that we read in May. Comment down below and let us know if you read any of these or if you plan on reading any of these. And definitely hit that like button and subscribe, and definitely hit that notification bell so you know when we post. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.